Hey yo guys, I'm back here to give you a review of the New Year's Eve K-1 Dynamite show. To me, felt like I should review it as it's the biggest MMA show, or mixed show now, in Japan, since it's on New Year's Eve night, which is the biggest night for, TV in Japan, which is opposed to North America where everyone goes out and gets hammered. Everyone in Japan, they decide to stay home and watch TV, as there was a lot on there. There was, boxing on in Japan, there was this show, and then there was a hustle show. There's also some orchestra thing going on that actually got like a higher rating than this and the hustle and the boxing, so goes to show, I guess, where combat sports is in popularity and, the mainstream culture in Japan. But so to me, I thought this was a good show, as you had a lot of interesting fights. I mean, a lot of upsets that, things that shouldn't have happened, which is, the theme here of, as of late in, the world of combat sports, where anyone who should win their fight, well, clearly doesn't. To me, this could be the new wave of the future, as, pro wrestling's kind of dead. This had a pro wrestling feel to it, but, you combined the realism of, MMA and the K-1 in there. I think this could be, the next big sensation in Japan. Kind of a take back to the old UWFI and, the old Bushido stuff. So I think this could be where it's at there. Before we get into the review, mentioning about questions, I'd like to say thank you for sending me questions. If you send me questions in the for the last video, you can send them again. You don't have to be shy about it. I don't know why you have to be shy if you sent them before. Anyways, so if you want to send them, you can send them to the email which you set up, which, that's something I try to get going, so please send them there. Send them to the MySpace or the YouTube inbox. Don't leave them in the comments. I got up one question from a comment, but I was able to find it, but they will get lost and I won't go back and check my videos as often, so just send it to the inbox, email, or MySpace. It can be anything on the past, present, if you want to know stuff from behind the scenes, just what made something happen, stuff like that, or, any opinions on, boxing, MMA, pro wrestling, especially, I mean, anything of that nature, you can send to those three things. Anyways, let's get on with this review. We started with, the spectacle of any type of combat sports, mainly K-1 or MMA, I guess in Japan would be the big intro type deal. We had the Japanese marching band, a Japanese marching band out there playing to set up the inevitability of the fighters coming out, which I thought was really good. Anyways, which I like. I'm a big fan of how the Japanese open that. I mean, and the production values on this show, with, the setting and all. I mean, this thing makes, UFC and WWE, if they were combined, like a joke. So that's just that. Anyways, started with K-1 fighter Errol Zimmerman versus Ikushia Minowa. Really, to me, this fight was the perfect opener, as both guys have a lot of charisma. And, they're just, they had some guy who, you had Minowa, who's, becoming he's a star there and really in Japan. And I just thought it was a great opener with the charisma aspect mainly. It was something that got the crowd. Zimmerman, he comes out with full skeleton bodysuit and all. But to me, Zimmerman lost this fight, and in the reason a lot of the K-1 fighters should lose their fights when they come into the world of MMA is the fact that he doesn't have a ground game at all. He's so used to the stand-up kickboxing. Well, that's what definitely played in here once the fight got taken down. And two, you have to remember that the K-1 World Grand Prix just took place at the beginning of December. So, and Zimmerman was in that. He was in there in a tough war in the semifinals, where he, was in a Fight of the Year candidate with, the K-1, next superstar in Badr Hari, who you're going to see in a bit, hear me mention in a bit. But, I mean, that was a great fight, as, Zimmerman rocked Badr Hari. Badr Hari came back and rocked Zimmerman real bad twice, so clearly he didn't have enough time to recover from that. Tough break. But anyways, basically it was to go show that Zimmerman doesn't have a ground game whatsoever, as Minowa went and took Zimmerman's back, and Zimmerman grabbed the top rope trying to, prevent him from taking down. The ref had to pull that hand off. And then, he got put in a toe hold, and Minowa put his leg over Zimmerman's arm so he couldn't stop hammer fisting him, and that was the fight. So game there, but you know, it was a good fight as it got the crowd interested in it. And the thing I loved was most about this fight probably was Minowa's entrance when he came out. The Japanese crowd got into it, but not only did the Japanese crowd get into this entrance, Errol Zimmerman was freaking dancing to Minowa's theme music, so that was just awesome. Anyways, I'm going to skip the K-1 under 18 tournament and go to the first K-1 fight, as I didn't really get to see the under 18 tournament, my version of where I saw this. Anyways, the first K-1 fight was Artur Kyshenko versus Yoshihiro Sato. Really, to me, this was Kyshenko just dominating Sato throughout the first 2 rounds, and really in a 3-round, 3-minute fight, that's all you need. Kyshenko, you know, it was a slow start of the first round, but, you know, Kyshenko got things going. He got some big punches in there. He even threw a nice back fist in there. But in the closing seconds of the round, Sato tried to make things a little interesting for the judges here. And he came back, he threw some nice kicks, and so there were some nice hand combinations in there. But to me, it just wasn't enough, so I gave the round there to Kyshenko. Second round was all Kyshenko, no ifs, ands, or buts about it, but apparently one judge thought it was still a draw. I don't know what this judge was watching. Kyshenko clearly dominated that round. The third round, Sato did make a contest here. This was, you know, his best round, but really it wasn't enough as Artur Kyshenko wins unanimous decision, and rightfully so. Then we went on to the next fight, which was Daisuke Nakamura versus Hideo Tokoro. Really, this was a very interesting fight. A really fun ground game mixed martial arts fight. If you remember from UFC 87, Damian Maia versus Jason the Athlete McDonald, this is something like that, as Nakamura went for an armbar throughout the whole fight. He was fighting and fighting to get this armbar on, but he just couldn't manage to get it, as Tokoro would just roll out. They eventually stood up once. Tokoro got taken down again. Nakamura got an armbar. Once again, Tokoro got out. Eventually, Tokoro got an armbar on Nakamura, but then he got out of it. And finally, Nakamura gets the armbar, and eventually had to be stopped by the ref, as Tokoro did not want to tap out here. So really, this was a star-making fight, as Tokoro got, you know, a really good ovation, as he well should have for this fight. But really, Daisuke Nakamura is someone to look out for in the realm of MMA. He really looked strong here, being able to control in the ground game. He wasn't able to really finish it. Probably wanted to tap, but he eventually did get a submission victory. Then we went to the next fight, which was Andy Ologun versus Yukio Sakaguchi. Both fighters come from famous fight families, as Sakaguchi is a bigger family, as he's got about his family fought mainly in MMA, whereas Ologun's family also fought the same. His brother Bobby fought in there. I believe also Sakaguchi's one of his brothers or something did pro wrestling. I can't remember off the top of my head, but really, this was, you know, kind of an interesting fight, as, you know, Ologun got caught in a triangle choke, was able to get out of it, and then he eventually got on the ground and got some ground and pound, and he got it. I completely disagree with the stoppages. I thought Sakaguchi was covering up really well here, and or at least decently enough for the fight to be not to be stopped, but they stopped it, and Ologun got the win. Said that his brother Bobby was not a let-in because he rode his bicycle to the arena, which somehow and he didn't have a pass and he wasn't allowed it. I completely don't believe that, but whatever. Then I went to the next fight, which was one of the interesting, you know, super garbage type fights. I forget the official word, what you would call this right now, was you had Bob Sapp versus Kinniku Mantaro, who is basically what Japan's trying to do with him for what, you know, they made with Tiger Mask and Jushin Thunder Liger. They're having him, the cartoon character, evolve into MMA, much like how they had the pro wrestling evolve into the cartoon. That's what they're trying to do here. Bob Sapp did this Ric Flair-like entrance that to me was not cool at all. It didn't work at all. And the Japanese fans were like, yeah, whatever. Woo, we don't really care. Anyways, to me, Kinniku Mantaro, who was dressed up as Akihito Tanaka, he basically wore a mask resembling the character. He had this bodysuit on. He actually was able to have some, you know, a decent amount of ground game. but really, Bob Sapp was able to get the advantage because he was able to pull the mask and get to the fight back up to the ground and, punch him, beat the living tar out of him, basically, up in the corner. And, the ref stopped it, especially when you had Mantaro turn his back, so that clearly means he didn't want to there. Really not the most entertaining fight, and clearly shows Bob Sapp has not a really impressive ground game at all. Still, I never thought he really had that much of an impressive ground game, but this proved it as he was, on his back trying to fight up throughout the whole thing, and the only way he really got the advantage was pulling the mask. So, anyways, Bob Sapp, though, has trimmed down a bit, and apparently his New Year's resolution is goal to do K-1, MMA, and pro wrestling in 2009 in Japan. Then we went to the next fight, which was Semmy Schilt versus Mighty Mo. Really, this one was, this was an okay fight to me. Schilt got the victory via triangle choke. Schilt said that he didn't want to try and be the boring type fighter he was. Well, he really didn't pull it off here, as this was a boring fight to me. As it wasn't the most entertaining thing in the world. Schilt basically gets the win with triangle choke. To me, the problem here was Mo got too deep in with someone like Schilt, who just got the triangle choke on. And, to me that's interesting, as, Schilt's more of the K-1 type fighter who actually's got a ground game, so that's interesting here. Then we went to an excellent K-1 fight, which was Hayata Sakura versus Katsuhiro Shibata. This thing was incredible. This was basically, you had, oh, I'm sorry, not this fight. That's the next fight. This fight was an interesting MMA fight. There was just so much MMA back-to-back, especially when you had Japanese guys going up there. Shibata basically was someone from New Japan who was trying to, his father was in New Japan and they tried to push, but he left and got called into MMA, and he basically is still trying to be there, but he's still a flop, and Sakura gets the win. Not much of a match here. Anyways, then we went to the first K-1 fight, which was Kawajiri versus Takada, and to me, this fight was supposed to all go to Takada. Takada's clearly better than Kawajiri in K-1, but the polar opposites happened. We were in Bizarro world here, man. I mean, Kawajiri just leveled Takada with, punches. I mean, he rocked him in the corner, dropping him. He had a beautiful flying knee. He hit him, I believe, with a combination that just busted open Takada here. Really, and then he finished him off with a big right hand. Great fight. This was an excellent. And then Kawajiri said he wants to fight Joachim Hansen in 2009. And then we go to the interesting fight of the whole show to me, which was Alistair Overeem in a K-1 fight against the K-1 bad boy Badr Hari. Badr Hari, got a lot more heat on him in the K-1 World Grand Prix Finals when he stomped on the head of Remy Bonjasky, which is a complete no-no as you any ground fighting in K-1. It's just stand-up. Really, though, Alistair Overeem is someone who's fought in K-1 before. He's actually been, impressive. But he shouldn't have been able to dominate Badr Hari here. But, you see, Overeem here definitely was bulked up for this fight. I mean, he was, 254 pounds, much as opposed to, I believe, his normal of, 225 at least. So, that was something impressive there. I believe he was 253. But anyways, I mean, he came in there and just rocked Badr Hari. I guess maybe Badr Hari's wore through the tournament of the World Grand Prix Finals. I don't know. Clearly, I think that could be a theme here. But to me, Overeem just had crisper stand-up than the K-1 guys. And I think that's a thing we have to always take in consideration, that the K-1 fighters don't have as great stand-up as, maybe the MMA guys do. As, the first knockdown for Badr Hari, I'd say, is more, the power that Overeem has. Got him with a knee that kind of rocked him and just kind of pawed him like a bear would paw at a beehive or something like that. And just, he dropped him. It wasn't that effective, but then he finished him with this crushing cross through. It was just a dominating punch. I mean, Badr Hari's head hit the back of the mat when he came, and his face just looked like he'd been through a full-on war, and it really wasn't. Crowd made this huge pop, as they really aren't a big fan of Badr Hari for having no respect for anything, really. So, big win for Alistair Overeem, and he said that, this win was for the people, and people who respect this combat sports. Then we went to Mirko Cro Cop versus Hongman Choi. This fight was a big disappointment. Both guys looked like they really didn't be here. And you know what? It really shouldn't have been surprising. It really wasn't surprising to me that it wasn't that entertaining. I mean, Hongman Choi isn't, you know, the same guy he was a couple years ago. Clearly the cancer's gotten to him. He isn't as bulked up as he once was, and he wasn't as versatile anymore. I mean, he's clearly getting sore from these wars. Cro Cop is a guy who's, you know, he's broken down. He needs severe knee surgery, and, you know, he was just got bullied around in his last MMA fight by Alistair Overeem, so that was interesting there. Really, basically, it was a slow, stalling fight. Both guys did get the yellow cards there for stalling, and basically, Cro Cop kept kicking away at Choi's knee, and Choi eventually hit him once in the knee and dropped Choi and got the victory there, so not that much of an entertaining fight. And then in the next fight we had, which was built for the simple reason that their last names sounded the same. We had Gegard Mousasi, who is the Dream Middleweight Champion, take on the K-1 fighter Musashi. Really, to me, this fight was, you know, it was just, It was there just for Musashi to it was just there for the simple fact of they had the same names. Musashi is just, you know, a worn down K-1 fighter who isn't the same, and he got dominated by, you know, someone who is really a strong fighter in Gegard Mousasi, and he proved it here. I mean, he just went up for a war. He just, any chance he got, as soon as the bell rang, he was just right on Musashi, just dominating him with punches, combinations. Not many kicks here. He was just so into it. I mean, they were in a clinch, and, you know, Musashi pushed him down. Really dominating performance there, and apparently now they could have done something interesting with the fight that the loser can never use the name again. Well, that's something funny that Musashi said after the fight. Anyways, then we went to the next fight. Sorry, there was a lot of fights on this card. I mean, there was so many. I mean, you had the next fight, which was Melvin Manhoef, didn't even weigh in. He just made it to Japan, I believe the day of the show, taking on Mark Hunt. And Melvin Manhoef knocks out Mark Hunt, that man with a head made from granite, in 18 seconds. This is his first knockout in the realm of mixed martial arts, and he's only been knocked out twice before in K-1, so that's pretty impressive. 3 knockouts, you know, in his whole fighting career, his professional fighting career, and Manhoef 18 seconds. I mean, Hunt just came in, and he threw a punch, you know, that Manhoef threw a punch, and, you know, Hunt covered up, but then he left his whole side opening, and Manhoef has some strong power behind him. I mean, he's a top 5 stand-up striker with power to me in the world of mixed martial arts. Caught Hunt and just dropped him, and that was it. I mean, for some reason, the referee let Manhoef just pound and pound and pound on him for a bit more, but he should have been there a bit sooner, but, you know, that was just a dominating performance there. Then we went to the next fight, which was for the WAMA Lightweight Championship, which was Shinya Aoki versus Eddie Alvarez. This fight here was, you know, it was more played up more in North America. In Japan, it really wasn't. Eddie Alvarez, though, is over due to the fact that those great fights in Dream against Joachim Hansen and I believe Kawajiri. Kawajiri. And then you had Shinya Aoki, who the hardcore fans believe is the next rising star. And I guess he really proved it here. I liked how Aoki was rocking these, you know, rockers type pants, like the rock. Remember the rockers, Shawn Michaels, Marty Jannetty type pants from, you know, the early '90s. Really, one thing of note here is the fact that, you know, WAMA in their press release for this fight said that, you know, on their pound-for-pound rankings in the lightweight division, the UFC lightweight champion BJ Penn is the #1 lightweight. But since he hasn't fought since May, and that his next fight's going to be in welterweight, that's why, you know, he couldn't be in contention for that. So, whatever. I mean, that just makes them look fucking stupid. But anyways, you had Aoki basically do a butt crawl on the ground when he tried to engage the fight on the ground. To me, Alvarez was doing really well in this fight. When they got standing up, it looked like he was going for a Aoki was going for a takedown. He caught Alvarez's kick, turned it around, but Alvarez came back, turned it, and he got the fight to the ground. He got the takedown, but Aoki got a toe hold, and he got the submission victory there. Right there for Eddie Alvarez, he had the fight basically going his way, but he gets caught, as everyone, I guess, eventually does in the world of MMA. And then we had the main event, which was Kiyoshi Tamura versus Kazuki Sakuraba. This fight was a bad way to go home on the show here. Basically, the whole fight, this whole thing was built by the fact that Tamura beat up on Sakuraba back, in training camp at school in the realms of pro wrestling, as both men have dabbled in, shoot fighting, and Sakuraba's, the star of MMA, so he wanted to get this revenge. Tamura kept ducking him. He would rather fight, the likes of Wanderlei Silva and get dominated by him in Pride. Well, we get the fight finally, and it's just a stalemate of them on the ground. I mean, it was just boring. Sakuraba looked like some of the best shape of his life, but it was just sad seeing, this legend in Sakuraba get dominated by Tamura here. Tamura basically had him on the ground and kept hitting hammer fists throughout the whole first round in a very uneventful stalemate. Same thing basically happened in the second round, except we got a couple stand-ups. Really boring fight. Most people went home before the decision was even announced. It was clearly that Tamura got the win here. But overall, with the exception of the dull main event, I thought this was a good show. Thumbs up. I love the Dynamite shows in general. Always a great feel. This is the big WrestleMania weekend type feel for Japan. The K-1, big New Year's Eve show has kind of overtaken the prominence of the Dome show in Japan, which is a couple of days after it always, especially this year, it was as well. So anyway, that's it for me. Kind of rambled on a bit here, but this was 18 fight card. I mean, we didn't get one fight, as you had Hansen didn't make his fight with Jay-Z due to the fact that he had a head injury and couldn't pass the medical exam. But anyways, that's it for me. I'm out. Peace.